Can I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know who I am.
So confused in this life full of mystery. Guess I'm glad it ain't a life full of misery. I wanna dance, I wanna fly, I wanna let it free. But that's a different side of people they don't wanna see. I've been caught up in my mind sometimes, so I rhyme around just to feel alright. And when the rhyming did good, that's when I just understood it was by design. And when I feel this way, I just walk and talk to appear this way, baby. I don't know what to say, baby. I don't know what I am, baby. That's just how I play, baby. Yeah.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?
Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another episode of Unconventional Playbook. Got my guy with me today, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. Pat, I'm up here sounding like Doc Rivers, man. I'm playing hurt today. My voice is gone, you know. But as you know, we got to trudge through for the nation. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good, man. You got that voice that's just jammed up on you, and I know what it's like with that voice box. You know, all you guys that ever been on the sidelines, you understand when you ain't worked it in a while, it takes a little minute for it to come back.
Yeah, a lot of coaching this week. Been spending a lot of time with my team trying to get ready for the season. You know how those off-season programs are. But it's an exciting time, man. We got Minnesota Vikings training camp. It is open. This is what we've been waiting for. A lot of good things coming out of camp. I know we're going to talk about a few things. I'm super excited. But where I want to start today, Pat, is, man, I've just been so impressed with my guy, Kwesi, over there. You know, people have been using the term that Kwesi is cooking. He has done a tremendous job. Number one, he got us out of some bad contracts. That's number one. The whole, you know, Kirk Cousins deal, he refused to commit to, I don't want to call it mediocre talent because Kirk Cousins is not mediocre, you know, but he's not a superstar either. So he wasn't willing to commit big dollars to that. So kudos to him, number one. You know, Danielle Hunter had to get his money, even though Danielle's been a tremendous player for us. You know, we didn't want to invest that amount of money in Danielle, and, you know, he went to the Texans. That was number one. But now he's signing all of these important players at important positions for the Minnesota Vikings. We heard yesterday that Christian Darrisaw signed his deal. And then he got the J.J. McCarthy deal done, fully guaranteed, which everybody was kind of afraid wouldn't get done by the time training camp started. So he did get that done. And then he got my guy Dallas Turner done as well, $15 million, fully guaranteed. Kwesi's hitting it, man. What's your take on Kwesi?
Yeah, man, he's you know they got him and KOC, they got the vision, and right now what I see is them utilize their vision. Like you said, they got us out of that the financial crisis we were in, right? It was like Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
You know, the Dow, it was down.
Yeah.
So, you know, he got us out of that crisis that we was in, and it was just mainly Kirk Cousins, was it, right? How old of a quarterback you're going to be paying that much money? And, you know, we had, like I said, some before on the podcast, long in the tooth guys. So the Danielle Hunters, those guys, don't get me wrong, as we're saying it, those guys did fantastic for us. But he had to go into a different direction. They had to get the players in there that they wanted to be as successful as they can. And I think that's what he's done, right? You know, when he got us out of this crisis that we were in, now we're in this good place for the next several years, right? By the time they're going to have to play J.J. McCarthy in Dallas, their second one, and probably Pace get some money too that's going to come up. We're going to be in a fine situation like the offseason signings that he's got. We don't have to worry about those guys for several years. With our core guys, we don't have to worry about anything. And right now, we're above the cap, right? We're one of the best, teams where you got a lot of things fulfilled, and we're in a great cap situation. So he uses his, financial experience, like I see at Wall Street. He uses that, and he knows how to work the numbers. Him and Rob work those numbers fantastically. And right now it's just, you can see the things we put together. Now, the guy's got to show up on the field, right?
Yeah.
Financially, he's done fantastic things, taking care of one of the top 10 left tackle in the league right now, making sure he gets his money in his long-term contract. And that's what we got to continue to do. And then, hopefully we're signing the right guys, keeping the right ones, and bringing the right ones in continuously. Hopefully it just continues to go upward, right? I mean, he's like a plane taking off right now, and we don't want to go on the descent like we're landing, right? We want to keep going upward, right? Like we have a destination.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've brought this up several times, and you just hit on it again, talking about the salary cap. Like, man, that was absolutely purposeful for Kwesi. Again, getting out from underneath those contracts. Now that dead cap hits us this year, so we got to take our lumps. In other words, we're just paying our bills because we kicked so many of these contracts down the road that now we no longer have the Kirk Cousinses or the Danielle Hunters. So all that money that was kicked down the road comes due this year. So it kind of hurts our flexibility this year. But next year, like you just mentioned, we've got a great salary cap situation to be able to plug some holes, add some talent to this team, add a little bit of depth to this team. Kwesi has done a great job. But Pat, what really has impressed me, man, is you've watched the NFL long enough, and you know how these negotiations go. When you talk about signing all these contracts and trying to keep your superstars at home so they don't go other places. I mean, look in Dallas right now, this whole CeeDee Lamb situation with Jerry Jones, that's really contentious. Those guys are so far apart that, CeeDee Lamb is not even practicing right now.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
you got
with
the
guys
Vikings
worried about their contracts in a lot of places.
That's right. Yeah, and you got, your situation with the Vikings. Like, the Vikings have been very quiet. Like, I know the whole Justin Jefferson contract was out there, but that was out there by the media. You really didn't have Kwesi or KOC saying anything. You really didn't have Justin Jefferson saying anything, and they just got the deal done. The whole J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner thing, they got the deal done. The whole T.J. Hawkinson thing, when he came in, you didn't hear anything about any holdouts or people being far apart in terms of their contract talks. Kwesi is using his Wall Street acumen to be able to talk with these agents, talk with these players, keep everything in-house, and thus have a quiet Minnesota Vikings team when it comes to signing these contracts.
Oh yeah, man. It's not even just the contracts. It's everything. It's the culture that they're creating over there, the Wilf's family. I mean, Coach, we can all go back and we could talk about the boat scandal.
Yes.
There was just so many things that were disrupted. Now, when you hear little things, it makes you worry about that when little small things come up. But even with those things, they keep it in-house, and the way that the culture is being built over there, I think is just fantastic. That they're just keeping it in-house, keeping it tight to the chest, and then they're working out everything. There's no bad blood, no controversy. It's like that Ja Rule and Ashanti song, right? I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time, right? So Kwesi's always on time, right? JJ didn't miss, the OTAs, right? The mini camp mandatory, the 2 rookies, all the rookies are signed. So they at training camp, right? Just taking care of take care of your guys, and they'll take care of you on the field.
Yeah. And you said the C word. You said culture.
Yeah.
And when you talk about culture, I mean, that starts from the top down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, we had a tragic death in the Minnesota Vikings family with Kyrie Jackson. And again, this is about the C word you just mentioned, culture. The Minnesota Vikings are taking care of their family in multiple ways. Number one, paying homage to the young man. I don't know if you saw the decal that was painted on the field today at training camp, but they painted a decal of Kyrie's initials on the field. That was a great tribute to him.
Oh, yeah, they made it pop with that gold trim around it, right?
Yes,
around
sir.
that purple. So they made it pop. That was fantastic that they did that for him. So they come out and they're going to see that every time.
Yep. And then you got the organization taking care of funeral arrangements. They are giving his signing bonus that he was to get this year to the family. So in various ways, I mean, Pat, you're not talking about a veteran that had been around the team for 6-7 years. Like, you're talking about a kid that only made the OTAs and the mini camp, was just drafted.
Yeah.
And for the Minnesota Vikings to step up and to take care of his family like this just says a lot about the organization and that C word culture.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a great place to be. People always talk about how we got one of the top training facilities, top organizations, like they always ranked us high. And once again, that starts from the Wilfs on down, right? So the Wilfs, themselves went and found a Kwesi, right? Kwesi went and found a KOC, right? KOC, and B-Flow and Kwesi, they're going to find the character players that they need in the organization. And it's going to pay off, right? Things just don't happen overnight to go get a Super Bowl, right? You got to have culture in place, right? And the culture that was here before, it was a lot of bad blood. There was bad blood with Zimmer and his coaches, his players, right? You got to weed through that. That's tough, man. We've been in a lot of places, you and I, and culture's important. So I love what they're doing. It makes you want to always tune in to them. For all the Kirk Cousins fans out there, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm even more happy to tune in knowing that he's not under center. So I'm just being honest. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it again. You hit it again, man. It was like there were times, reports coming out of the Vikings headquarters is that Zimmer and Kirk Cousins didn't even talk. That's not the type of culture that you want with your head coach and your quarterback. So a lot of things have improved. I like what I'm seeing, and I like what I'm hearing from the Minnesota Vikings organization. Let's dive into some of these contracts. Obviously, the newest one is Christian Darrisaw. A lot of people don't pay attention to the trenches, but you and I both know, being football people, that the trenches is where the games are won. On the defensive line, offensive line, Christian Darrisaw plays a position that is crucial, especially when you bring in a future franchise quarterback like my guy, J.J. McCarthy. He protects his blind side. So the Minnesota Vikings, when they really didn't have to, there were still 2 more years left on his deal, put pen to paper, and the Wilfs wrote the check and got him locked up long term. How important is that signing, do you think? Even though it's not a sexy position, how important is that signing to the Minnesota Vikings and then the future of J.J. McCarthy?
Oh, that's super important, right? There's all positions on the offensive line are important, but the 2 most important is your center position, right? Bradbury sitting right there, right? But your blind side, right? You got to protect, make sure that quarterback is safe, right? And that left tackle with right-handed quarterbacks, right tackle with a left hand, right? That blind side, right? They're the one picking up the blocks that you can't see. You ain't got eyes in the back of your head. You got to feel as a quarterback back there, but they got to protect you, and that's an important spot, knowing that you got a first-year rookie quarterback, not even a first-year rookie, Sam Darnold this year, right, or whoever's out there. You got to be able to protect them, and when you got one of the top 10 left tackles in the game, you got to make sure they locked up. You don't want holdouts. Like I think 49ers right now having a holdout, right, from Williams, right, out there at their left tackle, right? So We're not in that situation where we got holdouts. They're taking care of you. And what it says to everyone else is don't bitch and moan about it, right? When it comes your time, if you that worthy and you produce, they going to take care of you.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast going in to campus today, and a caller called in, and I thought the caller made a great point. He was like, basically, the faces on the offensive line are going to be pretty much the same as last year. And the Vikings had one of the worst running games in the league last year. Do you feel like the Vikes should have possibly made some changes on the offensive line, or do you think it was just strictly running back? And now, since they've upgraded to Aaron Jones, that running game is going to be better?
I think it's something that, as a coach, if you're a really good coach, you're going to go back and look at game film, look at your scheme, look how people played you. Hopefully you gave enough tape to your offensive line for them to go work on certain things. But on the other end, I mean, let's be honest. Madison was never a lead back, right? He was never this explosive lead back, right?
Yeah.
So now you got a guy like Aaron Jones who's a multi-threat back. And our passing game, I think, is just going to open up more. I just think we never got out of it what we want, right? We saw better glimpses, and I just don't know why we stayed with them. I know Cam Akers got hurt last year and Ty Chandler, but they did a better job in the backfield than, they're just, not bigger. Ty's not a bigger body than a Madison. So I'm not worried about it. The verdict is out, though, right? It's not that we can ignore that stat line, because that is a relevant stat line. So, hey, we're gonna see what you can do, right? We're gonna see what you can do. But I think Aaron Jones, right? It's an upgrade there, and it's just part of the scheme, right? It's adjustments. You and I know about that, right? We go through the season, look at game film. We might still be running our system, but we got some tweaks here and there to make us better somewhere else, right?
Yeah, you just brought up the name Cam Akers, and this one is sliding underneath the radar, but I want to protect Unconventional Playbook, and I want to protect Pat's name, and I want to protect my name. We said on the podcast a couple of podcasts ago, I can't remember which one it was, but we specifically talked about Cam Akers, and we talked about Cam Akers being signed to the Minnesota Vikings. It was in their transaction report. They put it out there that pending a physical, Cam Akers was going to get signed. Now, yesterday, I just saw that Cam Akers had a workout with the Houston Texans, and he signed with the Texans. So I don't know if you've heard anything, but I can only assume that Cam Akers, coming off 2 Achilles tears, did not pass his physical. Have you heard anything about what happened between the Minnesota Vikings and Cam Akers for him to end up with the Texans?
No, I have no idea what it was. It could have been dollars. Who knows what it is, right? You going to Texas, right? That's some tax-free money down there, right? It's state tax-free money. That'll change up some stuff, right? And I think they're heavy back there, right? Pierce is down there, even with Mixon. So I don't know why he made that choice. He knew this playbook, but I will have to go that maybe it was something health-wise, right? Or just, Texan came calling when it wasn't signed on the dotted line yet. So I didn't hear anything about it. What I knew is what you knew, like we talked about on UP, right, is that it was the physical, waiting for the physical, but it was pretty much a done deal.
Yeah. One thing I'm looking forward to, Pat, is this is something that we've never had to do before in a long time with the Minnesota Vikings. We've got ourselves a quarterback competition. And I know that KOC, he's not playing it that way. I mean, he's come out and he said that Sam Darnold's going to be at the start of training camp QB1, but we've got a lot of weeks in training camp. We got preseason games, and things could change pretty quickly. It's been Kirk Cousins for the past 6 years for the Minnesota Vikings, so we haven't had that competition. So for the first time, I'm really looking forward to watching those preseason games, watching those inter-squad practices, because I think they mean a little bit more because you're searching for your quarterback. I think Sam Darnold more than likely is going to start the season, but I don't think it's etched in stone that he's going to be the starting quarterback. I think there is a little bit of competition, especially if J.J. McCarthy really looks good in practice and in training camp.
Oh, definitely. I think Sam Darnold right now has the nod, and in my opinion, right, listening, reading between lines and listening to KOC, right, the competition is important, right, because it doesn't for both of these guys, right. No one's comfortable, right, and I don't think they want to put them in a comfort state because neither one of them have done anything to feel comfortable. So you should feel like someone's on your ass, and. So that's what's happening there. I love the fact that it's competition. What I really love is whether I'm reading articles or listening to podcasts or listening to whether it's KOC or JJ Jets, right, speak about the quarterback. They always bring up one of the two, right? If they bring up Sam Darnold, right, he talks about JJ McCarthy as well. If you bring up J.J. McCarthy, they talk about Sam Darnold as well. So we know it's this two-headed race, but they're not leaning on one or the other to get this feel out that this is the guy. I think they're appreciating what both of them are bringing right now to the table, and I appreciate the maturity of the young man. Like I listen to him like talk about it, right? He's learning from all three other quarterbacks, and he appreciates the help he's getting them. And he said, when it comes that time, I'm going to surpass them, and I love that confidence in you, right? But for right now, he's like, I need to learn. These guys know so much more. So right now I'm eating up everything they're giving me, but my goal is to surpass them.
Yeah, that's that word again, Pat, culture. When you talk about the two guys that are competing with each other, talking about each other every time they get a microphone in front of their face and saying the right things, doing the right things, that's that word culture. Are you interested, man, in how, because this is uncharted territory for most Viking fans and people that pay attention to the team. Like, I've just been wondering how they're going to divvy up playing time in the preseason. Because there's one thing to say, okay, Sam Darnold needs the reps in a new system, new team, but you also don't want to see him get injured and not have him for the season. And then you have J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, he's the future franchise quarterback. You want to give him his reps, but you don't want to put him in situations where he looks bad. So how do you think KOC is going to handle like divvying up that playing time? I know you are a former football coach. You've had to make some of those decisions. I've never coached the game of football. I'm just a fan. So how do you think, KOC is going to divvy up all those minutes for those quarterbacks to give everybody the looks that they need?
Well, if it was 6 years ago, I really could define how it was. But now that we got a 17-game series, a 17-game season, and only 3 preseason games, and usually the last one's dress rehearsal and things like that. Honestly, What I see is the inter squad scrimmages, right? Because you're going to inter squad scrimmage 2 teams this year, which means you're going to play them in the preseason, which means that I feel like Sam Darnold's going to get most of that, and then JJ is going to get the end game part, right? Because Sam Darnold is a veteran. Sam Darnold has, if I'm not mistaken, almost 30 starts under his belt, right? So, he's much more out there. So I think it's really going to be about the rookie getting the reps and then letting the other guys get it, right? If I was KOC, my rookie, he get the first half of the first preseason game, and then I go, Mullins and Hall, right? And then the next one, maybe let them play a series after halftime, and then the third preseason game, that's, let the man get a series out there and put the other guys out there, and that's it. So that's how I think it's going to go. I don't think we might see much of Sam, maybe a series or two, but I don't think we're going to see much more than that of Sam.
I think you could be right, Pat, but here's what I'm afraid of, man. Here's a stat that I heard that it really surprised me, and I should have known this, so I'm sure you probably know it. I was a little embarrassed not to know it. Kwesi has never won a preseason game as a head coach since he's been with the Minnesota Vikings. I didn't realize that. The one thing I know about KOC is that the way the NFL does things now is a little bit different than when you and I were growing up. When you and I were growing up watching the NFL preseason, I remember it watching the Cleveland Browns growing up in Cleveland. It used to always be the first string would play like half the first quarter in the first preseason game. And then the second preseason game, maybe they would get a quarter. And then the third preseason game, that was, like you just said, that was their dress rehearsal. So they would play into the third quarter. And then the fourth preseason game, they didn't play at all. Now that they've scaled back to 3 preseason games, KOC has shown since he's been here, he doesn't play his starters at all. Yeah. Those dudes are in their jerseys, no pads, and they're eating peanuts on the sidelines. Like he doesn't play them. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out with the quarterback position. This is my prediction, and I hope I'm wrong about this. But I think when it's all said and done, Pat, when all the preseason games are over, I think Mullins and Hall are going to get the most minutes. I think Sam Darnold is going to get the least amount of minutes out of all the quarterbacks. And I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a little bit above Sam Darnold. And the only reason why I think that is I think KOC puts a premium on those inter-squad practices. So he's going to get a chance to see what he needs to see as a coach. And the fan base, unless they can make it to those inter-squad scrimmages, won't get a chance to see everything. And I think the Vikings like to play it close to the vest like that. Because if J.J. McCarthy goes out there and have a bad night, it kind of, if you play him in the inter-squad scrimmages, there's only a limited amount of people that can see that. If you do it in a preseason game and he has a bad night, that's going to be all over ESPN and stuff like that. So I think KOC somewhat, he's going to protect the golden goose. I just think he's going to take that approach. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because I want to see the young man play. But it's going to be interesting to see. And we're going to do a podcast after the preseason is done. And we're going to tally up the minutes. I believe Mullins is going to get the majority of the time. Hall second. J.J. McCarthy third, but not getting a lot of minutes. And Sam Darnold's going to get the least amount of minutes. What's your thought on that?
Now, I hope it's not that, right? Because you can't protect this rookie, right? Like if it was a veteran, I get it, but don't protect this rookie. Put him out there, right? You worried about media and all that. This ain't the college media. This NFL media. And if he goes out there and he has a bad performance, then understand what it's like to handle the media, because I think that's part of the experience as well, right? Understanding how to handle that. I don't foresee it happen, right? We were just talking about the Texans, and let's go down there and talk about C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud looked like horrible last year in the preseason. Man, he was horrible. I was like, that was a horrible pick, right? And, it's kind of like we talk about, summer league for basketball. Preseason doesn't define you, man, right? You're trying to get, number one, you're running your most vanilla offense. So you're not running your most comfortable plays, right?
Right.
So you're just going out there to get some reps. And I think the reps for J.J. McCarthy is more important than not giving him those reps under the lights, right? Preseason lights aren't season lights, but they're still lights, right? And there's guys that use those lights that on his 90-man roster, and you're trying to get to the 53, right, or the practice squad. Those lights are lights. And I just hope that they don't. It doesn't matter to me that we do or don't win preseason, maybe, but it kind of does. Maybe that's why we got right in his first 2 years. What is our record in one-score games? How many one-score games do we have, right? Maybe that's why we have one-score games, but part of it is part of the shifting of the culture too. So I'm not going to put it all there, but I want to see the young guy out there. That's for sure. That's where I want to tune in to the preseason for. I mean, I know I'll be at the inter-squad scrimmage, at our place when we have that at TCO Stadium, but get the young man out there.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right. KOC just has that resume. I heard him talking today. He had a little presser. He had a little presser today, and the one thing that kept coming out of KOC's mouth was a little different. Because the one thing where I've been critical of him is that he doesn't play his starters, for the preseason games. And then they come in that first game like they did against Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield, and they're fumbling the ball. They're not tackling well. And I'm like, well, you didn't play any of these guys in the preseason, so are they actually getting all the reps that they need? But who am I? I'm not a football coach. The one thing that kept coming out of his mouth today that I liked was the word physical. Physical. We're going to have physical practices. We're going to make sure we maximize the days where we have our pads on. He just kept saying physical, physical, physical. I had never really heard that from KOC. So I think when you start hearing verbiage like that, that means the whole mentality has changed. And so I think he probably looked back on that and said, okay, we need to have more physical practices. We got to be more physical up front to enhance that running game. I like what I hear when KOC talks about the physical play of the Vikings.
Yeah, when you talk about the physical play, right, I think it's, twofold. Yep, the trenches, right, as you talked about earlier, right? And yeah, it's part of the run game, but I think it's part of something that how do we get our offense better? How do we get our defense better, right? And I think, going through a year within the B-Flow and him their first year together, right? B-Flow may have had some influence on this as well. Like, hey, man, let us be more physical. That's going to help y'all moving the ball, but that's also going to help us on the defensive end of things we want to do to try to even take more away from you, right? I got my schemes, but we need to become a more tough team, right? And, we're skilled. We're a very highly skilled team, but toughness, I love the sound of that, man. That just makes, I want to see bodies flying all around the place, right? Especially on the defensive side, right? That's when you super get excited when your defense can fly around and be physical. But if you're allowing your defense to do that in practice, then that allows your offense to really grow when it talks about the physical mentality as well.
Yeah. I love to hear that word. I love to hear that word coming out of his mouth, physical. We talked about the cornerback spot again, the unfortunate death of Kyrie Jackson. So we talk about cornerbacks. We're thin. We just signed Duke Shelley. Does that do anything for you?
It does something. And you're talking about cornerbacks, and now we got to talk about Kyrie Jackson, Duke Shelley, and Blackman, right? So an injury that's coming out of camp. And okay, Duke Shelley helps within it, right? How fast can you learn the scheme of B-Flow? But man, there's these other guys that got to step up. We're -2 cornerbacks now, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about 3 weeks. One's tragic and one is unfortunate, right? But to lose 2 cornerbacks and knowing that was our weakest position, on our defense, right? And right now, we're talking about Kwesi, and this is one of the moves where I'm looking at Kwesi, right? Is there a cornerback out there that's unhappy, right, at another location? Maybe he ain't getting the money or whatever. This is one of them trades right now that you try to go pull off, right? And that really, to me, that defines it right there, right? Is there a cornerback sitting out there with a team that they know they can't pay him? We know we got the money or whatever, or can we go find a cornerback in a trade right now and maybe we got something that somebody else wants, So that's right now, that would define Kwesi right now. Because trust me, him and B-Flow and KOC looking right there, who in free agency, they're going to be eye to it, who getting cut, But right now, I'd splash on some sort of trade. Because we're getting killed in that backfield right now. But I think Duke's going to be a great addition for us. He'll make the team. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I'm worried though, Coach. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I'm worried. UP Nation, Viking Nation. I'm worried. Right when those are some tough things to overcome.
Yeah.
That they're just injuries. They suck. They're part of the game, right? But you're talking about at a position that we're already thin in.
Yeah. There's a guy that's over there in Miami, used to play in B-Flow's system in Miami. Mr. Howard still out there. He's kind of disgruntled in Miami. Maybe that's a trade we could pull off. Pat, I'm zoning right now. Who's the cornerback for New Orleans? Can't remember. The name is just gone right now. But I know the Vikings were looking at him. He's been with the New Orleans Saints for years. Always used to battle with the Viking wide receivers. Man, I apologize, UP.
Oh no, it's okay. I apologize too, because you just came to me out of the blue, and I'm not even thinking about no one else roster right now. But I'm lost in it.
Yeah. So I know that he was rumored to be available. So yeah, I agree with you, man. I think they're going to have to make some sort of upgrade from somewhere. I know things have to play out. You got to get some practices under your belt and stuff like that. But they're going to have to bolster that secondary because they can't go in thin like that. Let's talk a little bit about the injury with Mekhi Blackman. Heard about the knee injury earlier today. Reports have just been released that he tore his ACL. That's unfortunate. How detrimental is that to the Vikes?
It's detrimental, right? I think he was, if you look at it, if you were going to put, Booth on one side and, you're putting Griffin on the other side, well, he was probably going to be right sitting at the nickel unless Evans is right there, right? But behind one of those two, if an injury happens, right, that just took from our depth chart. So
yeah,
I mean that's major, right? Only a couple of years in, it's just unfortunate, right? Cornerbacks are tough to come by, though, right? I mean, this is a passing league. This is the reason why they go high off boards. It's the reason why they get nice contracts in their second, if they performed in their first 4 years, man, they're tough to come by. And that's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to say too much. I won't speculate, right? Because right now, UP Nation, my emotional feelings is coming into play right now, right? Because I'm a fan and I love it, and I don't love hearing about injuries, right? I don't love hearing about tragedies. I don't love hearing about DUIs. I don't love hearing about stuff when it comes to the Skull Nation. So I don't know, man. It's sad, but I'm not losing faith. I just want to see what's next, right? Who's the next person up, right? When an injury happens, next man up. And who's the next man up to step up, right? So that's what it is. Next man up, and let's see who the next one's up.
Yeah. Well, Pat and I are going to definitely be out at some Viking training camps, the inter squad scrimmages. So if you're part of UP Nation, don't be afraid. Pat, I've already gotten some emails, some comments. Hey, when you guys going to be out at, Vikings training camp? I don't have a schedule in front of me right now in terms of when I'm going to be there. I know TCO is right in Pat's backyard. So you guys, if you go out to any of the practices, you'll probably see him out there way more than me. But we're going to make some appearances together out there. Like I said before in previous podcasts, don't be afraid to come up and say hi. I think that would make our day. We're going to continue to bring you this content. This is our time here. This is what we've been waiting for. Vikings training camp. Pat and I are going to take over this thing in terms of bringing you information from training camp as much as we can. Again, this is what we're passionate about, Minnesota Vikings football. If you can't tell already, Pat and I are ready to go. We wish the season could start tomorrow so we can get going and advancing to try to get to this Super Bowl. So this has been Unconventional Playbook. I enjoy doing this content with my guy, Pat. Pat, again, man, thanks for coming on.
Oh, no problem, man. I'm super excited. Had to text my guy, O'Brien Harper, who, is in charge of the video at the Vikings, and I let him know it's go time, so he let me know, hey, Pat, when you coming over. So, I just, this is it, man. There's how much, is family, yeah, comparable to this. But when it comes to us and our sports, no matter who you are, if you're a sports fan and you love your team, this is the sport that you thrive for, right? This is it. This is the sport you thrive for, and I'm excited for. I'm excited because there's a lot of unknown things that, it's just out there this year. It's a lot of unknown, and we can't wait for the first glimpse of seeing them. So got some new toys out there, right?
Let's go.
Got some new pieces out there.
Let's go.
Just trying to play with them. I can't wait to get to it. But, yeah, we're going to bring it to you, UP Nation, and, bring it to you the way that we see it, right? And call it like we call it.
Yeah. Hit that like and subscribe button. We are flirting with 9,000 subscribers, and we're talking about 2 months. One of the fastest growing sports podcasts in the Midwest, in the top 25. So we're really, really proud of that. I mean, this thing is just growing every day. Hopefully by the fall, we can get to that 10,000 mark. If we get to that 10,000 mark, I'm going to celebrate like a kid at Christmas. I mean, that is a milestone. And we believe with the Minnesota Vikings, the Olympics, all that stuff ramping up, we're going to get more members to add to our family. So on behalf of Patrick and myself, we just thank you guys a lot. Continue to tune in when you have the time. This has been Unconventional Playbook. Your host, Lionel Jones, along with your host, Patrick Buchanan. We will see you when we see you. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?